Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the with Tim Lynch. I'm Tim Lynch. And yeah, baby, we're back. But not Jeffrey Epstein. He's still dead. Or is he? I don't know. I haven't seen a body. Do we even know? I mean, anyway. But anyway, good to be back. This is no doubt the best show yet. Because we are going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Because yes, he is back in the news, but not exactly what we hoped for. So let's just get right into it. So I guess this was last week, earlier this week. A friend of mine sent me a post off of X, and I'll just put this up here. This is from the Calvin Coolidge Project, at the Calvin Cooley I. And it said, just in, the FBI and the DOJ have announced that there is no evidence Jeffrey Epstein had a client list or that he blackmailed powerful people. So bear with me. I'm actually going to read from you the letter written by the U.S. Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation. So they wrote, as part of our commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that this review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, not sure what that is, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. I'm just saying that may have also included Melania Trump's underwear drawer again. They seem to have a penchant for it. Anywho, these searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Teams of agents, analysts, attorneys, and privacy and civil liberties experts combed through the digital and documentary, or as they say in upstate New York, documentary evidence, with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. All right, so, most of it sounds good. We got a bunch of stuff. A lot of it's really horrible, but at the same time, we want to protect the victims. Much of the material is subject to court ordering sealing, which will be fine, as you'll hear. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. It was like, okay, well, sure, you want to protect the victims. You certainly don't want to show any child pornography. And obviously third parties that are like, chefs or airline pilots or maids or what have you, you don't want to throw them into the spotlight. Let them write their own book. Anywho, this systematic review revealed no incriminating quote-unquote client list. So, interesting to put that in quotes. Now, one reason you could put it in the quotes is because that's the phrase everyone uses, the client list. But also, it allows you to be very specific and tell the truth and cover up at the same time. So, for example, perhaps there truly was no client list, meaning like in the TV shows and the movies where you go to the safe and you open up the safe and you pull it out and it literally says client list in bold and then all the names underneath. That may not exist. Or there may not be a thumb drive that someone stole from a computer that when you get the password and open it up, you find the file that says client list. So that may all be true. But come on, you don't think they don't have videos of people or flight logs of people or witness testimony or checks made out to people or letters written to people? I mean, you could formulate your own client list. So to say that Epstein didn't have a client list may technically be true, but not functionally. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he did have a client list that said list of clients. It's like, is there a client list? Nope. No client list here. So yeah, it depends what the definition of is. So as we read on, there was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. Because, of course, this is the theory, right? Is you have these powerful people, you get them in compromising positions, and now they're controllable and blackmailable. So again, maybe technically correct. Maybe Epstein brought them in, and he and Ghislaine, I don't know how you pronounce her name, Maxwell, set them up with underage girls and drugs and boys and whatever they did, and filmed it all and had it all, documented. And then Epstein did nothing with it. Well, someone else took all the information and blackmailed him. So, again, reading on, we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. So I want to come back to that in 1 second because I just want to read the next paragraph. Consistent with prior disclosures, this review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma, kind of like a snowflake. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. This includes specific details such as victim names and likenesses, physical descriptions, places of birth, associates, and employment history. So you're telling me that you have 1,000 victims, names, date of births, associations, employment histories, and yet you couldn't uncover evidence to predicate an investigation? So you couldn't have gone up to one or two of them or 200 of them and said, hey, you remember that time when you were 14 and you went to Epstein's Island, and do you happen to remember who was banging you? Was it this guy? Does this picture look familiar? Like, you couldn't do that and figure out and keep going with it? I mean, come on. So when you see all this, my take is, as we say in the business, is bullshit. All right. So obviously it does not pass muster, doesn't pass the sniff test. But also, this is not just our common sense and what we've seen. Literally, people who are in the know were constantly telling us about this client list, right? So once this came out, then everybody just looked through history and found what everyone was saying in the past. So here's a post off X from Raw Egg Nationalist. And he wrote, as he attaches this video, less than 2 years ago, Kash Patel, who's now the head of the FBI, was ranting about the FBI hiding the Epstein client list. Now he's in charge of the Bureau. He says it doesn't exist. So I'm going to play this video. This is him on a podcast, The Benny Show, talking about this. So let's play that video.
It's the same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing?
Oh, I saw you
give out the list.
I saw you make news this morning about that. I got to get to that.
Yeah.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but if you release the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word, or whoever that guy is, as to who is on that list and who isn't, and that it can and can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are. We have an election coming up, and we need to adjudicate this matter at the polls. God knows the FBI and DOJ aren't going to do anything, But how are you going to reward the FBI with a new headquarters building after their illegal surveillance on Donald Trump continues with a reauthorization of FISA, and we can't even get basic documents out? This is why America hates Congress. And this is why I'm tired of the Republican majority saying they're going to get the job done and failing.
Okay, so Kash Patel is not saying, oh, we can't figure out who went there. I wish we had a list. I wish we had anything. No, he's saying Bill Gates is fighting the list's release. Turbin Durbin is fighting the list's release. Congressional Republicans are fighting the list's release. So he's saying the list is there. We just don't have access to it. That's what he just said 2 years ago. But again, he's not the only one in the know that is saying this. So let me show you another video. This is a post from Defiant Els on X. And he shows a video of Alina Habba on an interview on the Piers Morgan show, talking about the Epstein list. And this was just back in February 2025. And Alina Habba, or Habba Bubble Bubble Gum, is Trump's attorney. So let me play this video for you.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway, we don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Kash and Pam, there will be accountability.
Okay, so she's like, it's incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, information, names that will come out. So there's more. Pam Bondi, right? She is our current attorney general for the U.S. And she was interviewed. God, when was this? This was back in I don't know, I want to say a couple of weeks ago. But she said, or a couple of months ago, and she said the Epstein Client List was on her desk for review, and it was going to be released to the public, just a few months ago, if I could read my own stuff. Now, she's the head of the DOJ, and she claims that there's no Epstein Client List. So let me just show you this video.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
So again, now as Robbie Starbuck, or at Robbie Starbuck said, was she lying then or is she lying now? By the way, it is interesting. At the very end of that video, they ask her, is there anything you've seen on that list that that's shocking? And she's like, nah, not really. So, that could be taken in a number of ways. Number one, it could be everyone on the list is pretty much par for the course and no one surprised her. Or nothing surprised her because there's no client list. And at that time, she was lying through her teeth, which I don't think so. So everyone's kind of sweeping this all under the rug all of a sudden. And then kind of one of the most disappointing tweets comes out, and that's from President Trump. And he wrote, the FBI, under the direction of Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, is back to the basics, locking up criminals and cleaning up America's streets. We have the greatest law enforcement professionals in the world, but politics and corrupt leadership often prevented them from doing their job. That is no longer the case, and now they have been unleashed to do their jobs, and they are doing just that. Keep it up. Make America safe again. And literally, what the hell is that? I am dumbfounded. Literally dumbfounded. Literally don't know what to do with that. I mean, we finally get an outsider to go in and clean up the swamp. Not really a Republican, not really a Democrat, to give the people the answers and justice we want. We want people who are above the law to now be in the jail. And then literally you get this tweet that is the X version of nothing to see here, folks. Move along. So now you've got all of these people in prominent positions, right? The head of the FBI, the attorney general, the president of the United States saying, hey, there's nothing here, man. Nothing here. But again, we have journalists and they should find the truth, right? Well, don't look to the left side. They haven't found the truth in ever. But even on the right side, right? You watch Fox News. One of my favorite, it's not really a news show, just a bunch of talking heads, shows on shows on Fox News is The Five. And it's basically 4 conservatives and 1 liberal, and they talk about the day's events and they all give their impressions. And it's very fun to watch. They're very engaging people. Now, it'd be nice to have maybe 3 versus 2, or hell, I'll go on 1 versus 4. I don't care. But anyway, it's a fun show, and they usually cover everything and give their takes on things. And what happened? What did they say? Absolutely nothing. So I listened to the show that came out after this. I listened to the next day that came out after this. And then I'll be honest with you, today I haven't listened yet. But I'm guessing if they didn't cover it in the first 2 days, they're not covering it the third day. And literally, as Mike North pointed out at North to North, The Five didn't touch the Epstein file story. Amazing as a sweep it under the rug starts about now. So it's not just the people involved. There's also a missive from above. We're not talking about it. Which is really disappointing because one of the things I really liked about Donald Trump is he'll talk about anything. And he will talk about hours. And he'll answer all questions. And you know why? Because his philosophy never changes. He is very analytical. He's very logical. And he's very honest about things. And it's very easy to talk or answer questions for hours when you understand and believe what you're doing and saying. That's why he can go on Joe Rogan and go forever. Because he's not spinning a web of lies. Those are impossible. That's where you get caught wrong-footed and then sound like an idiot or word salad. But now, here, he's sweeping it under the rug. And finally, there is this video I'm going to show you of a reporter asking him about this. He asked him about, and I'm just going to show you once Trump starts to answer. The audio is a little murky with the reporter, but basically the reporter is asking him about Epstein and asking him if he's, in an intelligence agency for our country or some other country. So let me play this video for you.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that.
Okay, so you saw 2 things. One, you saw Trump basically just 100% sidestep the issue, said basically, we don't want to know about this. This is old news. Who cares about this? Nobody cares about this. Which is crazy because Just because it's old doesn't mean we don't want to know about it. I mean, one of the things we were waiting for when Trump got elected was who shot JFK. Again, who killed Epstein? Who was on the list? Like these are everybody was dying to know these things. I'm sure people voted just for those reasons. Who really killed MLK? How gay was he? You know, all these things. And yet he just said, no one really cares about that. And that's not true. And what's crazy is the one thing Trump really, one of the reasons he really excels at what he does is because he knows his audience. He knows what they want. He knows what they're understanding. And he knows people are dying to hear this. So to see him sidestep this and then essentially blame his audience is very out of character for him. And then the second part of that was Pam Bondi, where she actually addresses the video I showed you before, and she says, "Oh yeah, no, I didn't say the list was on my desk. I was saying the file was on my desk, and that's what I was talking about. I never said the list was on my desk. I was like, are you kidding me? You know, they're asking you what's on this, and are you surprised? And let me tell you, if there were no list and they're asking you, hey, did anything surprise you? You'd say, no. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of flight logs and people's names and whatever. And we've discovered a lot of stuff Epstein was doing. But just to, spoiler alert, we don't have a single name of a single person that was on this island doing illegal things, engaged in underage sex traffic rings with girls or boys or whatever, or blackmailing or anything. We don't have one name. So just don't even ask because it doesn't exist. Like, that's what she should have said, as opposed to, we're going to release it all. So again, one way or another, she's lying through her teeth, and I think you know which way. All right. So anyway, at the end of the day, everyone on the planet now is going to have their theory as to why this came out. Why is Trump, now that he's in power, right, coming in saying, hey, I'm going to tell you who's on the Epstein list. And now all of a sudden we're not only not releasing the list, but just saying it doesn't exist. So everyone is going to have their theory. And the left is going to say, well, yeah, Trump's not releasing the list because he's on the list. Which, is he on the files? Is he in the Epstein files? I'm sure he's on the Epstein files, right? Because as far as I remember, he was on the plane. He's been to the island, as far as I remember. I know he's associated with Jeffrey Epstein. But then my understanding is once he found out what a creep he was, he completely disavowed him and distanced himself and had nothing to do with him. And if you look at Trump's character again as a teetotaler, right? The guy doesn't drink. He doesn't use drugs. I'd be shocked if he said, I don't drink, I don't use drugs, but underage sex slave trades, that's the way to go. I'd be shocked. I always reserve the right to be wrong, but it's not really consistent with him. The right-wing people who love Donald Trump, and I like Donald Trump a lot too. I think he's done great things. I think their theory is there's a list. Donald Trump's covering it up because, well, let me put this up. So this is a post from Patrick Bet-David at NotPBD. And he wrote, wild guess, which I don't think is that wild. I think this is what everyone's thinking. Trump is using Epstein's client list as leverage over the deep state and other powerful world leaders to get things done. Trump mastered this game a long time ago. And 100%, I think that's exactly what it is. They're saying there's no list. They're not releasing the list, whatever you want to say, because the list is still in play. And yes, there's people on the left. There's people on the right. I don't know who they're controlling, how many they're controlling, but the list is still in play. And that's why they're pretending it doesn't exist. Now, if I were Trump, I would have answered the question a little bit more truthfully because that's really more his style. So instead of saying, I don't know, we're talking about this, no one cares, I would have said, oh, yes. Oh, we have the list. It's a long list. There's lots of people on it, very evil people. And we have them under our thumb. Sometimes it's the right thumb. Sometimes it's the left thumb. But either one, it's a great thumb, a powerful thumb. And they're under it. But unfortunately, for our national security, not to protect them, very evil people, we cannot release the names now. We're still using the list. That's what I would have said had I been Trump. But again, conjecture. Tell me what you think. Put in the comments below. Do you think he's on the list? Do you think he's not on the list? Why do you think so? Now, let's go to the fun part. Because at the end of the day, no, not the fun part of did Jeffrey Epstein kill himself? Because we all know he didn't. Who is Jeffrey Epstein? Right? Where did he come from? And initially my thought was, my first question with Jeffrey Epstein was, he's this billionaire. I was like, no one ever talked about where he got his billions from. Where did he get his billions from? And then, okay, so let's take a step back. Let's go. Where did he come? Where did he come from? Right? Is he ours? Is he the Mossad? Some people think he's an agent of the Mossad. Is he somebody else's? Is he everybody else's? Like what is it? What's about him? Where did he get his start? And that we can dive into a little bit. So this part's really interesting. So one of his first jobs was as a math and science teacher at a prestigious school in Manhattan, a prestigious prep school called the Dalton School. So now, obviously, prestigious school, you think Epstein has a prestigious background. But in fact, he does not. In fact, he didn't even have a college degree. So imagine mommy and daddy are taking their very rich child to this elite prep school to learn from the best. And who are they being taught by? A college dropout? How does that happen? You're in elite prep school. All of your teachers are at least college graduates. They're probably all have masters in education or something else, if not PhDs or others. I mean, come on. You're going to spend that much money and a college dropout's going to teach you? How does that happen? Who hired him? You know who hired him? Howard Barr hired him. You know who Howard Barr is? Well, he's the father of Bill Barr. Bill Barr was one of Trump's attorney generals, was his attorney general during his first term. But I'm sure that's random coincidence that Trump's former attorney general's dad hired billionaire sex slave trader to be an elite prep school math teacher as a college dropout. Total coincidence. By the way, do you know what Howard Barr does in his spare time? He writes. Do you know what one of his books that he published 2 books. One of his books, I didn't even look. I probably should look to see what the other book was about. But one of the books that is very well known from him, you probably don't know it, so it's probably not very well known, but it's been talked about. He has a book called Space Relations, a slightly gothic interplanetary tale. And this was published in 1975. Now, what is this book about? So I'm going to read you what it's about from Wikipedia. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, geez, Wikipedia, that's always truthful. I looked up multiple sources, cross-referenced very reliable sites, like Reddit, to make sure that what I'm about to read to you from Wikipedia is in fact reliable. So let me start to read to you the basic plot of this book. Tale, if you will. All right, so here we go. So in the future, humans have formed an intergalactic empire ruled by aristocrats. During a time of war with the Plith, an empire of ant-like alien bug people, Ambassador John Craig, a formerly liberal Earthman in his 30s, is dispatched to the strategically important planet Kosar, a human colony that was settled by the Carlisle Society as a place of exile for political extremists and is now ruled by an oligarchical high council of 7 nobles, each of whom is in charge of a different autopen. No, I'm just kidding. Each of whom is in charge of a different domain with its own autopens. No, I'm just kidding. With its own traditions. Their boredom and absolute power have driven them to madness, to the point that Kosar's entry into the empire has been stymied by the Man-Inhabited Planets Treaties Clause, written by Craig, against alliances with slave-owning societies due to its practice of, get this, kidnapping humans to become illegal playthings of the galaxy's super rich. What? So, practicing kidnapping to become illegal playthings of the galaxy's super rich. But wait, there's more. Craig, who is now campaigning to bring Kosar into the Empire, had previously been to the planet when the passenger ship on which he was traveling on a return trip from the Beetlejuice conference was captured by space pirates. While en route to Kosar, one of the pirates awakened Craig and the other prisoners to, wait for it, rape a 15-year-old virginal redheaded female captive in front of them. The rapist's fellow pirates later hear of this and dock his pay as punishment for spoiling her market value. Craig then spent 2 years as a slave of the beautiful, sensual, and sadistic Lady Morgan Sidney. They called her Dr. Morgan. No, I'm kidding. The only female member of the oligarchy with whom he became romantically involved. Together, they lived in her castle, ruling over and engaging in sexual relations with those under their dominion, including an enslaved teenager at a clinic used to breed enslaved people. So to sum this up, this is a story about intergalactic political intrigue involving oligarchies using underage girls in sex slave trades with the super rich. Now, isn't it fascinating that the guy that hired Jeffrey Epstein, despite having no college degree, to be a math and science teacher in an elite prep school, happens to be the father of Donald Trump's former attorney general, and he wrote a book about oligarchies using underage girls engaged in sex slave trades with the super rich? Now, I'm not saying this is a coincidence, because you're probably thinking, holy cow, what are the odds? Yeah, no, there aren't the odds. This is not a coincidence. But what I am saying is you write what you know. And Howard Barr must know about oligarchies using underage girls in sex slave trades with the super rich back in 1973. And just to be clear, I don't think he wrote this predicting that this might happen. I don't think he wrote this planning for this to happen. Remember, you write what you know, not what you dream of. And he knew that oligarchies use underage girls in sex slave trades with the super rich. It's kind of the same thing with Orwell's 1984. Now, most people read 1984 and they're like, oh my God, that book was written in the 40s. And he totally predicted decades beforehand, Big Brother spying on us, memory holing things, the gaslighting. Like, no, he didn't. He didn't predict any of that because all of that was occurring in the 40s when he wrote it. I mean, sure, the technology changes and he wrote it in a futuristic society, but the acts were all there. Because remember, human nature doesn't change. So George Orwell wrote a futuristic version of what was going on at that time. Howard Barr wrote a futuristic version of everything that was going on at that time. And I'm guessing that he was a part of. And I'm guessing that he brought Epstein into. And scene. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Send it all to your people so they can follow us. And you'll see me next time.